showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
Welcome to episode 254 of I Am Salt Lake podcast. I'm Chris Hollifield.
And I'm Chrissy Shelley.
We got a great episode. On this episode, we talk with AJ Wentworth from the Chocolate Conspiracy. I've been waiting, honestly, Chrissy, since I started this podcast to bring AJ on the show.
Yeah, you've known him longer than I have.
About 5 years.
Yeah.
And so, we've chatted here and there. I'd see him at events and whatnot. I'm like, I got to get you on the podcast. Finally got him on. Mm-hmm. And I mean, this was a really good conversation.
Yeah. And I think it was better timing that we got him on now.
I think so, especially with you co-hosting the podcast now.
Yeah.
He's got a heck of a story.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it gets a little longer than some of the episodes, but I urge you, please stick with it because, I mean, it really just unfolds into such a beautiful story. I mean, we find out the stuff that he had to deal with, the problems and
and all the experiences that led him up to where he is and
absolutely.
why he's there.
And about his chocolate, about his new store, his old store, the markets he sells at.
The difficulty of starting a small business.
The progression with the company is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. We get into all that in that conversation.
Yeah. It's very awe-inspiring to see how dedicated he's been.
Great story, though. Before we get into that, let's talk about last night.
We had fun last night.
Last night, Saturday night, we went to go see Empire of the Sun concert at Saltaire.
First time for me at Saltaire.
It's been a while since I've actually been to a concert out at Saltaire. I used to go to a ton of them back in the day. Mm-hmm. And last night it was the X96 Nightmare Before Xmas.
Yep.
Jed's Barbershop was throwing out swag because they were sponsoring the event. And so I asked Jed, I said, "Hey, Jed, I want to help you out. Let me help you throw some swag out into the audience." And so it was a lot of fun. You actually took some video.
I did. I got to be down in front of the crowd, taking videos and pictures of you guys.
So there's some videos and pictures on our Facebook pages. Mm-hmm. Go check them out.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, though. And then we got to hang out up in the X96 little green room.
Yeah, it was really nice.
There and kind of mingle with some of those guys and really good time.
It was a good show.
To hang out with Jed and Nicole and X96.
Their crew.
But hey, speaking of Jed's Barbershop, they are now an official sponsor of the podcast, of I Am Salt Lake. Very excited about this one, Chrissy. We're excited to bring them on and be working with them. You'll be hearing us talk a lot about them. So please go give them some love and support them.
Yeah.
Get a haircut, a beard trim, a straight razor shave. Maybe one day I'll have the guts to go get a straight razor shave, when I want to kind of trim the beard down. I don't know. It's on my bucket list, though, to get a straight razor shave. But anyway, right now they have two locations. One of them is right downtown at 212 South, 700 East. The other's in Sugar House at 2153 East, 2100 South. They're open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday, 9 to 7, and Sunday, 12 to 5.
They do walk-ins.
Yeah, they do walk-ins, so you don't even need to make an appointment.
Yeah, I brought my son there, and my kids didn't even want to leave. They loved hanging out there so much.
It's a cool atmosphere.
It is very cool.
You get a root beer. So
yeah,
jedsbarbershop.com for more info. Check them out and go get a haircut. But Friday night, so before last night, I want to talk about this real quick. My birthday celebration.
Yeah.
39 years old. I know I've talked about this on the podcast, and I hype it up all the time. Oh, my birthday. Well, birthdays are special.
They are special.
And 39, I'm not going to lie, I'm freaking out a little bit. I know you said don't freak out, but I want to thank everybody that came out. We met a lot of podcast listeners there, a lot of faces that I don't think I've ever met before.
Yeah, it was really nice. Like, a lot of you guys came out and made it a really fun night.
Gave me a hug and bought me a shot.
And the night went by fast. That's how fun it was.
It did. It went by really fast. Next thing I know, I was waking up the next day. So thank you. We're not going to get into all the details. If you weren't there, then you missed out, and
pretty much
your fault for missing. You got to listen, honestly, listeners. If Chrissy or myself posts an event online, come out to it.
Just come out and say hi.
Hang out and and check it out. But hey, I know a lot of people are doing last minute holiday shopping.
Yes,
I
like
mean,
me.
Well, sad. It's kind of hard. It's weird to say last minute, but I mean, it's ticking on. I mean,
like once it's in December, it's kind of officially considered last minute shopping.
It really is. But our friends at Oleo Skin and Beard,
yes,
they got gifts for men and women. They got beard oil, beard balms, beard butters. And then they got
face scrubs, face masks. Oh, bath salts.
Bath salts and
yes.
All that good stuff. I mean, perfect for the holidays.
It is.
Perfect gift.
Yep.
You can buy it right there online at oleoskin.com. They're also doing a lot of markets and stuff. I'm posting about those online as well.
All the winter markets. You can just walk up and grab stuff. Well, pay them.
Well, you got to give them some money. You don't want them to beat you up.
True.
But anyway, go check them out, oleoskin.com, Oleo Skin and Beard on Facebook. Well, you can stay up to date on all their events. And many thanks to them for sponsoring I Am Salt Lake podcast as well. With that being said, though, Chrissy, I want to jump in. Let's get into this conversation with AJ Wentworth.
Oh, yeah.
It was a heck of a conversation. We talk chocolate. We talk nutrition. We talk like he shares
spirituality.
This goes all different directions. So anyway, here's that conversation with AJ Wentworth from the Chocolate Conspiracy. Thanks for listening. I don't know where to start with you, man, because there's so much I want to make sure to talk about.
Yep.
Because you have such a fascinating story. And hopefully we can get it out today on the podcast,
it's not that long.
Well, I don't know, man. You're a pretty cool guy, in my opinion. You got an interesting story.
Thank you.
But let's even, do you want to start with where's home? That's kind of where I like to kind of find out where people grew up, where their roots are.
Totally.
know?
So my roots are here in Utah.
Oh.
Yeah, right. I grew up out in Roosevelt.
Really?
Yep. So Roosevelt's past Heber, right before you get to Vernal, out in the Uinta Basin. My dad was a school teacher as I was growing up, so he taught English. He taught journalism. He did photography. He did the yearbook. He was a swimming coach. So, yeah, my dad kind of wore a lot of hats in the educational system. I have two older brothers. And so my parents raised us out in good old farm country in Roosevelt. And,
did you guys actually have a farm?
No, but my neighbors did. Awesome. So it's actually, we just had some conversations with a couple friends recently where I realized how much my parents ate local food growing up because we had access to it. So we drank fresh milk. We had local honey. We had local produce, fresh pumpkins. That's so nice. Yeah, I didn't really think about it as I got older, but we were also kind of in the lower economic class, so we'd still have.
Isn't that pretty common though for small towns to eat local and support the little shops because they want to support their neighbors?
Yep. It was I was just on a little road trip and we drove through this really small town, and I was telling my friend that I was with, I was like, I miss small towns. Sure. I miss people are so happy in small towns. They're so cheerful and
everybody knows
everybody knows everybody, and it was definitely an interesting environment to grow up in because as a kid I loved it because straight across the street from my house was a big giant field, so I'd go play with grasshoppers and drive go-karts and motorcycles and shoot BB guns and throw dirt clods at kids. And
so you did like living there as a young child and teenage years you lived there and
teenage years. So I lived there until I was 18.
Okay.
And then I moved to St. George and went to school at Dixie State.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't realize you just went straight from small town to school.
Yep.
Wow.
To another basically small town, St. George. It wasn't like you were like, I want to go to a big city. I'm sick of small town.
No, yeah. So my oldest brother Chris went to Dixie as well, and so I had gone down there. I'd seen it. I liked St. George. My grandparents lived in St. George, so growing up as a kid, we'd go visit the grandparents
quite a bit.
Yeah. So I'd been to St. George a ton as a kid, and
St. George is beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
I love it there.
I still love it. I would move back there but it's now there's just too many logos. It's such a
It's too commercial.
It's too commercial. It's such a manufactured city. It's weird. But it's not like it was, but it was a small town, and the people there have that small town vibe. And
so what'd you go to school for in St. George at Dixie?
Nothing really.
Fun. You went to school for fun.
You just went to school because you're like, I mean, you had no plan.
I had no plan.
Really?
No. So I
find that so fascinating. With people with
plan.
school, they just go.
Yeah,
you just do it.
A lot. I got a scholarship. I was awarded a leadership scholarship from Dixie, and it was almost a full ride. So it covered everything pretty much except like my rent and some of my books. So my education was free. So that was kind of one of the reasons. And I was also I grew up Mormon. I grew up in the LDS faith, and at that point in time it was like, okay, do I want to go on a mission, or do I want to get some education? I knew I was too young to go on a mission, and I was questioning my faith at that time. So I was a young punk.
Now, what do you mean by too young? Because I mean, more, you were the age.
I was of age.
But you felt too young.
I felt too young.
Okay.
I didn't feel like I had any life experience. I didn't feel like
like you were ready to conquer the world yet.
I didn't want to go to Africa for 2 years and preach about a religion that I didn't really understand.
So you were questioning the Mormon Church at this time. Okay.
Yep. So that the reason, I went down and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a year. And because I still was, do you have to be 19?
I think it's 18 now because you could be a little younger. It's like, okay, less mature.
Yeah, so back then I had to be 19. So I still wasn't of age. So I graduated. I was still 17 when I graduated high school.
Nice.
So I turned 18 right after high school. So like a couple months because my birthday's a summer month. So I was kind of the younger kid in my class.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I was right on that cusp. So I graduated. I was 17. I turned 18, just a couple months later, went off to school. So I had a year to decide
if you wanted to
wanted to go on a mission or not. And after that year was over, I realized I didn't want to go on a mission. So then I just stayed in school, focused on school. The scholarship I got was an ambassador scholarship. So being an ambassador at a college, what I did was I gave tours to prospective students who wanted to come to the school. So when you go and check out a college and somebody drives you around and they're wearing an ugly polo that matches the school and has the logo on it, and they're like,
that was you.
Yeah, this is the science building.
I can't picture you that way, though.
I was a punk-ass kid. I had long black hair, and I had a big red streak through it, and I was kind of the punk rocker kid at that time in a group of 30 ambassadors that were all Mormon Utahns. And so
I hate to use this term, but you've always the wild child. You've always kind of been that rebellious
I have.
soul.
Yeah, I have.
I hate to say that.
No,
right?
I know.
But do you know what I'm talking about? Because I was that way when I was a teenager. I dyed my hair.
I wore
green.
I wore slacks and a tie and listened to Good Charlotte and Newfound Glory, and
you were one of those kids.
I was a punk ass emo kid.
That's so see, and that's what I'm here for, because we see you. I mean, we're going to get into your chocolate here in a little bit.
Yep.
I'm sure people that are listening probably have seen you at the farmers markets, but this is an opportunity to get to know who's this guy
where'd it come from?
behind the counter, right? And if they haven't tried your chocolates, I mean, obviously they're gonna try them after they're done.
They should try your hot chocolate. Anyone listening, go try Chocolate Conspiracy's hot chocolate.
And we're gonna get into no seriously, we're
gotta plug it now.
little teasers. Well, it's winter time now, right?
I mean,
this is hot chocolate season. Yep. Anyway. Yep. So you're going to school in St. George.
Went to school. I was just studying art.
Okay, so you're studying art. And to kind of fast forward a little bit, nutrition. I know you went to school or you did something with nutrition. So am I jumping ahead probably?
No. So I went to school for about 3.5 years. And I failed out of a couple classes, and I didn't know what I still didn't know what I wanted to do. as a kid, I wanted to be an architect. And then as I grew up, I always did stuff with my hands. So I got really involved in cabinetry and building things.
Really?
Yeah. So I've always liked art. I've always liked, I was a musician for years as well. I played the trumpet. I played drums.
You like to create.
Yes, I'm an artist in any fashion that it was. And then and so I left Dixie. So again, my older brother who went to Dixie, him and his husband moved to Bellingham, Washington, and I helped them move up there. So we took a little trip. I'm like, yeah, cool. Me and my folks loaded up a truck and trailer. We helped them move their shit. And once I was up there, I was like, this town's awesome.
Sure.
So they moved there in like April. And then I followed with my girlfriend, my current at the time. She and I moved up to Bellingham together and followed my brother up there. And
how old were you at this time? Probably.
So now I'm. Let's see. That's 2006.
Early 20s.
Yes,
you were early 20s.
Yep.
Young kid.
Yep. So I was 18 in 2003. So. Yeah, 21.
Quickly doing the math.
I'm just believing you because I'm not going to even think about math right now.
So 20s. I could actually buy a drink at this time now, So, so we moved up there, and when I moved up there, I got into the job that was easy and quick for me to get was involved in catering. So my brother managed a really, really nice hotel in Bellingham, and there's a really like a 4-star restaurant attached to the hotel, and they have a big catering program.
Was this your first experience with food, or
Yes.
have you previously in the past worked with food?
So I always avoided food. I never, ever wanted to get into the food industry.
Any specific reason?
Because I was ignorant, and I never wanted to know how my food was made. I never wanted to.
It's a lot easier.
It is easier.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Americans. That's what they do. That's what we do. I didn't want to see how my Egg McMuffin was manufactured. I just wanted to live in bliss in the fact that I enjoyed my sausage and cheese and eggs, So,
and you were eating these Egg McMuffins at this time. You were kind of probably you just
so
ate
I was
anything.
Normal, typical American diet. Growing up, I ate,
Because I don't imagine you eating them now.
No.
Maybe a little bit once in a while.
I would make my own.
Okay.
Nowadays, I don't even know the last time I had McDonald's.
Sad. I know the last time I had
At least,
and it wasn't that long
it's
ago.
Been 12, 15 years, maybe.
You're not missing anything.
No, you're not.
No.
All you're missing is like stomach pain and
yeah, right.
sadness.
It's probably been since 2000 and so maybe not almost 10 years. So almost, probably 10, 11 years it's been last time. But so it's a long time. So, when I got up there and once I started working in the food industry, the whole idea, my friend was like, dude, you gotta eat healthier. You gotta change your diet a little bit and eat some organic food and, start making your own food. And so she kind of pushed me to eat better. And, I'm sure you both know her name, Sierra Sims. She runs Public Kitchen now.
Okay.
So that she and I dated back in the day. Now we're best friends. We were. Now we're just kind of like twins. Everyone who knows us, they're like they think we're brother and sister.
Yeah.
And so I knew her from college. She grew up in St. George, so we became really good friends. And then we dated for a little while. And as it evolved, she kind of forced me to eat better and change my diet. And at one point, she bought this book. It was David Wolf's book. It's called The Sun Food Diet. And she's like, read this intro. It'll blow your mind. And I was like, cool. All right, whatever. I was a reader. I didn't, anyone could give me any book and I'd pretty much at least try to read it. And if I didn't like it, I'd toss it. And if I liked it, I'd finish it. So she gave me this book and I've just plowed through it.
Sure.
Plowed through this book. And it's all about raw food and raw nutrition and diet. And something happened and my brain just untwisted.
It just clicked. It just made sense.
Really?
It clicked. It made sense. And I was like, all right, I got to do this. I got to try this. So she and I both just started transitioning to a raw food diet. And I'm still working in catering. So I'm changing my diet, but also watching, the industrial food complex.
Was that tough?
It was. Oh, yeah.
So when I was 17 when I went vegan. year, obviously that's over 20 years. And I was at this time, I was flipping burgers at Hires Big H. and Utahns, we're familiar with Hires Big H.
Oh, yeah.
So here I am, I'm going vegan, and I'm in a
flipping burgers.
Flipping burgers. So I can relate with what you were going through.
You're like an atheist missionary.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So, I mean, were you craving the food at all?
Oh, yeah. And yes and no. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I dealt with cravings. If anyone, listening to this, if anyone going on a diet, anyone transitioning their diet, your body changes, your digestion changes, your brain chemistry changes, the way you sleep changes. So it was a crazy time. And I did it pretty drastically and pretty religiously.
Sure.
We were pretty hardcore, and I shouldn't have done it as hardcore as I did it.
Did you experience withdrawals and things like that?
Yeah, you get weird shakes or.
So you went vegetarian, everything, right? I mean,
yep. So what I did is I went organic first. So that was I went organic. So it took about a couple months to transition everything to organic, and then I went vegetarian, and then I went vegan, and then I went raw. This was like a 6-month period.
Wow,
maybe
so,
6 to 8 months.
Talk about a life change.
Yep. Yeah.
That is. I don't know if I could ever do it. Like, kudos to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it was. I turned into a nut. I turned into a weirdo.
In what way?
People thought I had joined a cult. My parents were like, "You're losing weight, and you're on this weird diet, and you're only eating nuts and berries and greens, and you got to get protein in your life." And I became pretty. I was kind of one of those. I was kind of one of those foodie assholes that was like, "Oh, you're drinking a Coke? I don't want to talk to you."
Very judgmental.
So, again, that was part of the process. That was part of when you detox your body, our bodies store emotion. We store, we bury stuff. If you're mad or angry and you don't express that, and then you just go home and eat ice cream, that ice cream just buries that anger somewhere in your body, and eventually that shit comes out somewhere. And so detoxing, when you really cleanse your body, you cleanse emotion, you cleanse deep stuff. And that, further along as we'll get into this, I've detoxed my body to extreme levels and really healed a lot of things. But also, I've kind of come back to a point that works for me now. And so, so move along. I'm 6 months in being a raw foodie, doing catering. Sierra could not hang in the Northwest because it was too rainy, too cold. We parted our ways. She came back to Utah. We've been friends ever since. So the relationship was done. And I focused on food, and I focused on catering, and then I was focusing on health. So I was sucked into the raw food world. Wow. And so I lived in Bellingham for a full year, or about a year. And, my lease was up, and I was like, I like it here, but it's not, I don't know if it's what I want. So I came back to Utah, and I just came back to my folks' house, and I was super into meditation. I was super into yoga. I was still super into raw foods. I came home and just started making all these raw foods for my parents, and having my parents try raw vegan sushi. And
how did they take it?
What did they take it?
They liked it. I shouldn't say they liked it. They liked the idea of eating better, and a lot of things that I've introduced to them have stuck. So my parents cook with coconut oil. They don't eat a lot of cheese. They buy organic. My parents eat really, fairly healthy now. And same with, my brothers have taken a lot from this as well. And so, that my kind of pretentious attitude was at its peak at that time, because I was really strict raw, and then I started having some kind of weird, that's when I really had weird emotional withdrawals and cravings. So I remember when I was home, so I came home to help my dad on some projects. So we re-roofed the house, we built a patio in their backyard, I helped my parents with the garden. So I just kind of hung out at home, I didn't have anything I needed to be doing as a human, except I just was hanging out with my parents.
Hanging out with mom and dad.
Chilling with mom and dad, doing yoga, doing meditation, eating well.
Was that tough in Roosevelt to eat like a raw food diet at this time?
No, because it was right summerish.
So a lot of it was from the garden there.
Yeah, a lot. It was fresh. So it was cool. My parents were like, "Oh, there's this new nursery that has all this local food," and I was like, "That's cool."
So nice.
We went down to this local nursery, and they have watermelons that are from Green River, and they have all this produce from local farmers because Roosevelt's still a pretty farm centric community.
Sure.
So yeah, we had access to a lot of good food, and I was able, then I'm buying a lot of stuff online too. So I'm buying spirulina and chlorella and hemp seeds and goji berries and superfoods, maca and things like that. And those are, I'm making chocolate goji berry smoothies in the morning. And
your dad's like, oh, another package for AJ.
Yeah, right. Yeah, all sorts of weird shit coming in the mail.
This is even before Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It was before 2-day shipping, or overnight. So it was. So it was interesting, and I just kept feeding my parents, and there was a point where I lost a lot of weight. I was the skinniest I was. I didn't look sickly though. A lot of people when they lose too much weight,
they look like skeletons.
Well, were you a big guy at this time? Because you're not a big guy now.
I've never been big. I've been the same size I am now.
Okay, I'm trying to follow here. You're losing all this weight. You're like
just imagine me.
We're like a 300-pound guy.
No. I've always been slim. I've always been skinny. But imagine me slightly skinnier.
Okay.
And people are like, oh, I can see all your ribs instead of just 4 of them now. So, it scared a few people.
Sure.
Some people were kind of nervous about it, but they're, again, they kind of thought I was in this like odd, weird diet cult. So, and from that point, I had this weird psychological kind of emotional outburst, if you will, where I just cried for a couple days, and all I wanted to eat. I didn't want to eat raw foods anymore. I didn't want to be a vegan. All I wanted to eat was peanut butter, bananas, and crackers. And it was this weird thing where my mom's like, well, if that's what you want, just
eat it.
Eat what you're craving. And I was like, okay. But I was trying so hard to do this kind of low sugar, raw food diet. I was trying to be strict about it. And my mom's like, just relax.
She's like, honey, don't die.
Just calm down, like take a breath and eat some bananas and peanut butter and crackers. And I did. And it like curved all those things, and it made the cravings go away, and it like balanced my emotions. And I was like, okay, all right, obviously there's extremes. It was my first experience with extremes on as far as diet goes. I was like, okay, that obviously went too far, so I cut it back, and then I was still vegan, still vegetarian, and I was about 80% raw. So I added in cooked grains. So I ate certain kinds of breads. I ate certain kind of like oatmeals and things like that were warm and cooked. I did certain kinds of warm soups, and then it was like a nice balance from that point. While I was, being this kind of Zen hippie as I was, I found this place in Arizona called the Tree of Life. And
how did you find this place?
In a book, in a raw food book. Yep, in a raw food book. Because literally, I had time to sit and read and just chill with the family. So I was doing tons of reading, tons of meditation, tons of yoga, and I found this book called what was it called? Don't remember.
Doesn't matter.
Some book.
So, yeah, some raw foodie book, and it talked about the Tree of Life. Now, the Tree of Life is a retreat center in Arizona.
Is it still around?
It's still around. Yeah, it's run by this guy called Gabriel Cousins. He's a medical doctor, and the whole retreat, their whole deal. I was going to say gimmick, but it's not a gimmick. What they actually do there is they heal diabetes and cancer.
Really?
Wow.
And yes,
just strictly through diet, probably.
Strictly through diet. So MS, any kind of inflammatory diseases, bowel diseases, they will help you cure it through raw foods, meditation, body movements, body therapy.
And they're teaching people how to eat this way, how to live. So probably people that are going there, junk foodies, McDonald's people.
Yep.
Go in there.
So these people go, and there's centers like this all over the world now. And there's 3 or 4 really good ones in America that I would recommend to anyone that is looking for something like this. It's really cool. While I was there, they actually made a documentary, and it's called "You Can Heal Diabetes." Or wait, is that what it is? That's the book that he wrote. The movie is called Raw for 30 Days. So they had guests come and stay there for 30 days. All of them had diabetes. So the whole idea was, can they heal diabetes or transition within 30 days? Can we get these people off of their medications? Can they help them heal their bodies? So when I found out about this place, I went there as a kitchen apprentice. So I worked at the Tree of Life. And
so you heard about it, sought it out, and went to specifically go work there.
Yes. So they actually, part of the reading in that book, whatever I was reading, it talked about the apprentice program. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to make food. I want to make raw food. I want to make healing food for people. And so it was cool. They had a little farmhouse that had 8 to 10 rooms, and there were 15 people that all did the apprentice program. So there were 12 kitchen apprentices and then 3 garden apprentices. So there was a big garden, an organic biodynamic garden. We composted everything. We made our own effective microorganisms. It was rad. It was just it's like a big commune in but it's not a commune. So that's, everyone thought I was crazy now, because now I'm moving. I'm moving to the desert in Arizona, and they're like, "So are you living with a cult?" Like,
do you know what I love about this, though? I'm totally have to interrupt. Is that you read about this in a book. Mm-hmm. There was a time where you could read a book about something and it still existed, and you could actually go find it.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's not like you found it on Facebook or something
blows
like
my
that,
mind.
right?
Yeah, found it in a book, and it's online. It's out there now. It's on. Yeah, I'm sure. I learned about Facebook at the Tree of Life.
So, I mean, is this a pretty?
That's when Facebook was like popping up.
Is this a pretty spendy retreat?
Yes.
I mean, pretty spendy.
Oh yeah.
Because I kind of want to go there. To be honest with you.
No, we should go for a vacation.
You can. So they have little vacation options. So you just it's a healthy vacation. So you go for 3 days, but they have hot tubs there. They have infrared saunas. Their hot tubs don't have chlorine. They have effective microorganisms. Their infrared saunas are all, it's just low. It's not like dry heat. It's all electric heat. Infrared saunas penetrate your cells on a different level than other types of saunas. They have massage therapy. They have colon therapy. They have aromatherapy. They have essential oil therapy. They've got, all sorts of types of modalities.
Let's clear this now that they have not sponsored this podcast, no. So we're not like we're not like an advertisement.
Tree of Life. No,
I mean, you're selling this to me.
Yeah, moving forward, I'll tell you about the school I went to as well, and I can sell them as well. They're a fantastic school. So yeah, I learned. So basically, what I did is every single day there, I worked in the kitchen, and I was apprenticing with this kid. His name's Frank Giglio, and Frank's awesome. We are still friends. We haven't talked in a long time, but he was a traditional chef. He had been, what's the right word for it? He is classically trained. He went to Portland, Oregon to study culinary. So he was trained as a classic chef, but he got in kind of the same thing I did. He got into healthy foods, he got into raw foods, vegan foods, and he came out, and he was actually an employee of the Tree of Life, and I basically was, I worked underneath him, and
you're like his intern.
I was his intern. Yeah, at least that was kind of, it wasn't set up that way. That's just kind of how I made it. He and I became good friends, and I learned a lot from him. There was another guy there named Baba Kosan. He was an amazing chef, and there was this German lady who was such a sweetheart. What was her name? She was so cute. She could have been like a German grandma. I don't remember her name. Anyways, but yeah, so I lived there, and I lived in this kind of dorm room with these people from all over the world who were there for the apprentice program. Most of them just went there to it was for their own knowledge. It was for their own health. And that's kind of what I was doing. I just wanted to learn about how to make better food. And And that's actually the first time I was introduced to raw cacao. So that's where my cacao chocolate journey started. It was the first time someone had handed. Well, let me backtrack. I had cacao before when I lived in Bellingham, but it was just powdered. So when I was getting into raw foods, I tried raw cacao and I tried maca and I tried a bunch of these superfoods. When I was at the Tree of Life in Arizona, the sweet German chef. Gosh, I wish I could remember her name. I feel so bad. I'll remember it.
She's probably listening.
Yeah, right. She's gonna know.
She's yelling at her.
She's gonna be so
I'll
mad.
remember it in like
AJ,
4 days.
You remember me?
But so she handed me a cocoa bean, a raw cacao bean, and was just like, "Here, try this." And it
You just ate the bean?
yeah, totally chomped it.
What'd you think of it?
Yeah, wow.
I loved it. And I was like, "What is this?" And she's like, "That's chocolate." And I was like, "This is not chocolate."
Because you're used to probably Snickers
like,
bars.
You can't tell me this is chocolate. What is this?
Yeah.
And so, she's like, that's how cacao is made. So then we did this fun little workshop where she taught us how to make chocolate from the bean, and it was raw. We didn't roast the beans. We peeled them all by hand, and we ground them up on a little table with a little stone, a mortar and pestle, and we made this kind of cacao paste, and it was probably very reminiscent of what you would have found in Mexico or Mayan times. And
Aztecs or
and it was amazing, and we learned other chocolate things, but that was the first time where my brain was like, there's something about this food that I really resonate with.
What do you think it was?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was raw and delicious.
It was raw and delicious, and I just like, it was this kind of exotic party food, if you will.
I could dig it.
I mean, it's a sober living, and so I had just come from, being a college boy. I was still in my 20s to going to this retreat center where no one drank, no one smoked weed, no one took drugs.
We're just going to take a quick break from this conversation with AJ to again mention our sponsor for this episode, Jed's Barbershop. They're actually looking to hire barbers for their brand new location that they're going to be opening up soon right on 900 South. I mean, this is a company, they send their employees to other countries to do service work. They support and contribute to animal rescues. They've helped people in other countries open up 60 salons and barbershops. And like I said, they're hiring barbers for their new location on 900 South. Email your resume to Jed at jedsbarbershop.com. Back to the conversation with AJ Wentworth. Thanks for listening. So I'm assuming, to back up just a little bit, I mean, were you you were living the party life at Dixie?
College was,
okay. So now
It
you're
was
kind
fun.
of a very clean life.
I had dabbled in college.
Sure. We don't need to get it. But I didn't know how, where you
My
were
mind
still.
has been expanded quite a few times.
I could dig.
Yep. That's, and
So now all of a sudden you're clean.
I'm this clean. And that was another weird thing for family and friends too, because I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't taking drugs. I wasn't drinking. I was going to this weird retreat center in Arizona where it's clean living and I'm making food for people, and it was weird. Everyone literally thought I would join a cult. They literally thought I just moved off to the grid to live with hippies.
Was there any communication with the outside world?
Oh yeah,
With the outside world?
No, it dude,
Did they make you get rid of your family and friends?
So the town, that is not out of proportion.
Well, I
it
didn't
was
know. I mean,
the outside world is outside. It really is, because it's its own place.
Did you had the internet and stuff?
We had the internet.
Okay,
Yeah, we had the internet, but it was very, and I talked to my family every now and then, but I shut off my phone when I lived there. I left my car with my mother, so they dropped me off to Sedona, and I went to a raw festival and met a bunch of raw foodies, and then I hitched a ride with some raw foodies down to Patagonia. So Patagonia, Arizona is southeast of Tucson, and it's about a half an hour from Nogales, from the border. So it's high desert, and literally it's in the middle of nowhere, and it is it's its own world.
Sure.
Yeah, and everyone in Patagonia knows about the Tree of Life. So they're like, oh, you're one of those hippies that lives up on the hill. Like, literally, I didn't leave the Tree of Life for probably 3 months. Wow. And I hadn't, so I, like, there was a little dorm room and then the facility. So it was like I'd walk back and forth every single day. You know, I'd walk to the kitchen, I'd walk back to the dorm room, I'd walk to the kitchen, walk back. I didn't go into the town of Patagonia. I didn't go into Tucson. I went to Tucson once in a matter of 4 months. Like, I never left. Wow. Do
you feel like that really helped you kind of spiritually and not spiritually, like religion, but, you know, like it helped you get in tune with yourself as a person?
Yes, it did. It helped me access levels of consciousness that I didn't know existed. It helped me evolve as a human. It helped me understand what it's like to dance under a full moon when in bare feet with a bunch of people. So it showed me, you know, creation. You know, it was this cool experience. So there was this old man there, and he was this bitter old man, maybe 80, maybe 70s, early 70s.
At the Tree of Life.
At the Tree of Life.
Okay.
And he came there, and he had terminal cancer. He was given 2 months to live. He lived there for 3 months. So literally, he just went there because he was going to die. And he's like,
might as well go out trying.
I may as well go, So he's tried all these things. And I watched that man transform. I watched that man cure his cancer. And, you know, technically we can't say cure cancer in any kind of
Sure. No,
But you watched it go into recession.
Yes. Yeah. Whatever. But I watched that man heal his body. I watched him heal his life. And actually seeing miracles, that was what the Tree of Life like gave me and like showed me that like we have the capability to do this with our bodies. We have the mind power, and if you have access to those things, anything can be solved and resolved. And so it was cool. It was magical. There were things about it that I didn't like. You know, I didn't really get. You know, one of my really good friends, Wesley Camp, he and I became friends. He's one of those kids like me that we loved crass jokes. We love South Park. We loved, you know, we weren't full on hippie. We were only like 60% hippie, you know, so there were times where we'd chill out together and we'd be drinking this raw organic cashew milk chocolate beverage and we're watching South Park. And, you know, some of the other people who were there would they'd judge us because we're in the world. You know, we were in the world
by drinking the cashew milk.
But no, exactly.
You know,
I was waiting for something a lot worse than cashew milk. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay.
Yep. So you know, it was funny because after I was there for 3 months, almost going on the fourth month, I realized it was kind of a cult. So Gabriel Cousins, Dr. Gabriel Cousins, he wasn't there. He was in Israel touring. And so for the 2 months my first 2 months that I was there, he wasn't there. So he wasn't running the center. So it was this cool, fun, bubbly community. And when he got back, the demeanor of the employees changed.
Really?
And the style of the facility changed.
Like everyone felt like they were being watched all of a
Boss
sudden.
is back. Boss man's home. Yeah. Boss man is back. And that was where I was really like, okay, you guys are kind of like a cult. I got to get the hell out of here. Like, so it really was like, okay, I'm done with this experience. But I only had planned there to be for the 4 months.
So where'd you go?
So where did I go? What happened there? Okay, so I left. I flew from Phoenix to Salt Lake City. It's right before Christmas. It might have been, you know, maybe the day before Christmas Eve or something. And I you know, my brother comes to pick me up and I'm wearing sandals and a fucking poncho and my beard's way too long and it's snowing. And my brother's like, dude, you came to Utah. And I was like, I didn't have shoes in Arizona. I had sandals. So yeah, I'm shivering my balls off outside waiting. I forgot how cold Utah was. So I came home. I came home for just a minute and chilled and kind of reassessed everything. And I packed up my car and I moved to Santa Rosa, California.
Did you have any connections out there, or you just decided to go?
I did. So I met this woman at one of the Raw Spirit festivals that I went to before I got involved in the Tree of Life.
Wait, stop there.
Yep.
A Raw Spirit festival. I mean, just quickly, what is that?
So imagine like for your listeners who have gone to Craft Lake City.
Okay.
That kind of festival.
But just raw.
But raw foods, supplements, nutrients, music.
Raw music.
Raw music.
Wrong music.
Unplugged.
I gotta see this.
Yeah, so it was this kind of fun little gathering of raw foodies.
Okay, so you met her there.
I met her there, and she was working on a book. And I
Okay.
told her I was going to the Tree of Life, and she said, when you're done, do you want to help me write a recipe book? And I was like, yeah, sure. So she lived in Santa Rosa, and she said, when you come to Santa Rosa, I have a place that you can stay, and you can help me on with my book, and I'll try to help you get some work. And I was like, cool. So I went to Santa Rosa, and I lived. So the family that owned this farm was leaving. So I was the caretaker of the farm. So
wow.
they let me live in their guest house. And I took care of their chickens. I took care of the garden, and then I did a bunch of work for them that they needed. So I hacked down blackberry bushes. I trimmed gardens. I mowed lawns. I did whatever they needed me to do. So I lived there for free. I was able just to live on their property as long as I took care of their garden and fed the chickens and everything. And so this woman connected me with them, and we'd meet every other day, and we'd work on her recipe book and kind of that, and I couldn't really find good work because this was 2008. So I was at the Tree of Life for the fall of 2007, kind of beginning of 2008. So I was kind of this hippie where I wasn't really in the world. I wasn't paying attention to the world, but you
were living the life, though, man. You were feeding chickens.
Totally. It was great. I loved it. I didn't need
You didn't have a 9 to 5?
The fact that you could get away with living that way is incredible in today's society.
Yes, it was awesome. Everything I owned fit in my car. Everything I owned fit in my car. So I literally packed my car up in Utah, said goodbye to my family, went to Santa Rosa, chilled, lived, had it was fun. I looked for work, and I found a few chef opportunities. So that's what I really wanted to do at that point. I really wanted to be a chef. I really wanted to make food, especially raw vegan food, but it just wasn't the right place for it. So I lived there for short amount of time, not very long, 3 to 6 months, something like that. And then, I was trying to find work, and nothing really panned out. And the lady that I was helping her with her book, she was kind of a weird old lady. And, again, I met a weird hippie that kind of was like, yeah, I want to do this. And then it didn't really...
It fizzled out.
It fizzled out, and it didn't really evolve. And so I was looking at retreat centers like the Tree of Life, but I didn't want to go back to the Tree of Life. So I started searching for retreat centers where I could find a job as a chef. Just like Frankie had a job at the Tree of Life. That was kind of what I was looking for. And I found this place called Cedar Springs. And Cedar Springs was like 45 minutes south of Bellingham. And so back
up to Washington.
Back up to Washington.
Wow.
So and now at this point, my brother and his husband had bought a condo. So they moved out of their apartment that they were in. And so I moved up there, and they had a spare bedroom. And so I moved in with my brother and husband, and I had an amazing place to live. And I was back in Bellingham. I loved the town. I knew the people.
I was going to say, you were already familiar.
Yep.
So nice. And then you just had a small commute to work.
Yep. So, and what was cool about this place, so Cedar Springs is exactly like the Tree of Life, just not a cult. And this is definitely a vacation, like a healthy vacation. So you come there, we had a week program. So 1 week was a kidney cleanse, and 1 week was a liver flush. So the kidney was kind of coinciding with the colon. So we would do a colon cleanse and a kidney cleanse kind of all in the same week. And then some people would come for 1 week, and then some people would come for 2 weeks. And so they hired me as the chef. And so my job was to make food for all the guests in the facility. And I also ran the organic garden, and then I taught classes. And so at that point, I started teaching.
So you taught to the guests who
Yes.
came?
Yep.
Okay. So they could go home.
Did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy the
loved
teaching aspect better
Loved
than
it.
cooking?
Yes.
Really?
To an extent.
What did you like about it better? Just
It comes natural to me.
Okay.
So, like I said, my dad was a teacher. A lot of kids follow in their parents' footsteps. My high school job when I was a kid, I worked at the city pool, so I was a lifeguard, but then I taught swimming lessons. And so I have this natural ability to teach people skills and teach people ideas and teach people thought processes.
and it's great that
things.
you can recognize that. A
Yeah.
lot of people don't recognize that.
And I love it. And I never really thought I would, or I never thought I was that good at it. But, and I was working at Cedar Springs for, it'd been 2 or 3 months.
Sure.
And finally, the assistant manager was like, "Do you want to teach a class?" And I was like, yeah, because I'm still a book nerd, so I'm still reading. I'm still reading about nutrition. I'm still reading about health. So anything I had in my hands was about nutrition. So I was so fascinated. So this whole time from leaving Bellingham, going to my parents, going to the Tree of Life, going back to Bellingham, even the time in Santa Rosa, if I had a book in my hand, it was about nutrition. I didn't read anything else unless it was some weird fantasy book like Lord of the Rings, or Harry Potter.
Did you find that like super helpful while you were teaching people that you could you just pull things out of your brain that you had spent all this time learning while
Yes.
you were teaching them like what to eat and why?
Yeah. So like I retained all this random health knowledge and health little tidbits. Like when people have useless information, my useless information is nutrition useless information. I'm try this,
That's pretty the opposite of useless.
Yes, exactly. But it's I can't tell you weird facts about science,
Dolphins, or something.
Dolphins, or baseball or anything weird. So it was just one of those things where I just really became passionate about it, and so now I'm working. What was cool about Cedar Springs is I lived there while I worked. So even though the commute was short, they had a cute little camper that I got to live in. But I would work for 14 days straight. So I would work for the 2 weeks that guests were there, or the full week. So sometimes I'd work for a week, and then sometimes they wouldn't have guests. It was super small. It was this tiny. The most amount of guests we would have would be 12 guests. So it was super small, super intimate. It was easy to make the food because I'm only preparing 10 to 12 plates, sometimes 4 plates, sometimes 2. Sometimes there were only 2 people there, and every day I'm making them breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Wow. And so, it was really cool because I got to live in the middle of nowhere. Sedro-Woolley is just east off of the highway in between Seattle and Bellingham. It's this cute little tiny town that I never spent time in because I would just go to work and I'd be in my little trailer and I'd work in the garden, and they had horses and they had sheep and they had wild berries. And so I would do wild food walks, and they had a beautiful creek we'd go swim in, and so that was one of the coolest jobs I had. I loved doing it, and I learned a lot. So we would grow our own wheatgrass. We'd grow our own sprouts. We would harvest all these wild berries, wild fruits. We would, I was growing anything you can think of in the garden that I could grow. I was harvesting wild nettles. I was drying foods. I was sprouting foods. I was whatever it involved as far as homesteading, and I was doing it.
So where did chocolate come in to all this? I mean, because you were already talking about it. You were introduced to it prior.
So I have a sweet tooth.
Okay.
I've always had a sweet tooth. So amongst all of these things, me making food and me being involved in gardens, my own time, I'd make desserts.
So you were doing this at Cedar Hills?
Yeah, Cedar Springs.
Cedar Springs. There's a Cedar Hills.
And then at nighttime, you just hide out in the kitchen making chocolate.
I
no one would
play
find
and
out.
make treats and confections.
But you were making it raw?
Yes.
You were making it healthy?
Yep. And so this was a website now, not a book. I found a school called the Institute for Integrative Nutrition because that's what I was looking for.
Okay.
I'm reading all these books about nutrition. I'm like, okay, I want to go back to school. Now I'm like, okay, I want to go back to school to study health and wellness. That finally clicked when I was at Cedar Springs, and I was like, okay, this is what I want to study. I've read 40 nutrition books in the past year. I should study this.
Clearly, it's something you're interested in.
I should study it officially. So I found a little advertisement on one Facebook feed or some email I got. I don't know. And it was promoting the school called the Institute for Integrative Nutrition.
And where was this school at?
Based in New York City.
Okay, so now you're going from the West Coast to the East Coast.
Yep. So I applied for the school. I worked it all out. I figured it out, and I had family in Connecticut, and my grandma had a basement apartment in Connecticut, and she let me move into her basement, and so I shipped myself. I drove.
Not the same grandma in St. George.
No.
This is
Mom's
Other grandma.
Yep.
Or she's like an amazing grandma
She's
that
bouncing
travels.
around.
Thanks for living where I need to go to school.
Yeah, so it was real. So at this point now, I had met this woman, Kat, and she and I were dating, and I had time before I had to go to school, and so I went to the Raw Spirit Fest again, and then I went to Burning Man.
Nice.
And then I moved to Tucson. And so this is kind of the fall. So my program in New York started in January.
Oh, so you're kind of traveling just...
So, it was like July, August, and I was like, okay, I got 4 months, I can kind of do whatever I want. And so I went to some festivals.
You did whatever you wanted.
I did whatever I wanted. Yeah, it was kind of
Good
nice.
call.
I was still young. I may as well get it done. And then, so I moved to Tucson, and I moved in with my girlfriend, Kat, at the time. And then, because I was kind of back in that Arizona place. I loved it. I loved the desert. I loved being down there. So I lived in Tucson for just a short time. But again, when I was there, all I did was read nutrition, prepped myself for school, did a bunch of yoga, meditation, did some art, painted a bunch of stuff. This whole time I was always painting. I love painting. So all throughout all of these years, from Dixie till now, I was always painting. And that was kind of what I did to decompress my brain. And so I drove from Bellingham to Utah down to Tucson with all my shit in my car because it still all fit in my car.
Did you bring all your paintings with you?
I had a lot of my paintings. I left a lot of my paintings at my brother's house in Bellingham, so they have probably 15 to 30.
Still, do you think
That's
they still have them?
Oh, they do. I was just there last week. Yeah, so they've got them hung all over their house.
That's awesome.
It
That's
blows
so
my
cool.
mind. Some of them are so old, I just want to burn them.
Take these down.
Yeah, I'm like, why are you hanging this? So they have a bunch, and I put a lot in storage. So coming back through Utah, even though I could still fit a bunch of crap in my car, I stopped home, saw some family, saw some friends, put some stuff in storage, put some stuff in my parents' attic. And then I went to Tucson, and then I drove myself from Tucson to New York.
And then in New York,
And then up into Connecticut.
You're studying nutrition.
Yep. So the school was cool because it can be a long distance. So the school would meet every weekend. So it's not it's not every day.
It's like part-time school.
It's like part-time school. So I had part-time work. So I got a job at an organic health food store.
Of course.
Yep. And I ran I worked in the deli, and so I ran their juice bar, and I ran they didn't have really a raw foods section in the deli, but they had a vegan section, they had a vegetarian section, they had a dessert section. So I started producing raw desserts for the health food store. I produced raw dishes.
Did they just allow you to kind of get creative and that's so
Just
cool.
let AJ be over there.
Just let him
And they
make
did.
stuff.
It's funny because the chef was this Liz. Liz is like this fierce New Yorker that will tell you what's on her mind, and she ran the kitchen. And I was this smartass who didn't give a fuck, and I'd tell her what I thought that was on my mind. And so she kind of respected me because I was this young kid who didn't take guff from her. Sure. Because chefs are hard to work with. Chefs are fierce, and if you don't do what they say, they'll smack you with a pan. They're just that's who they are.
Wow, they're prima donnas.
I've worked for a lot of crazy chefs. Like when I was in Bellingham doing catering, it's go on your feet. If you don't get out of the way, you'll get pushed out of the way.
Did you ever get hurt?
Yeah, actually. New Year's when I was catering once, I slipped. This was not, this was my own klutziness. It's my own clumsy. I slipped and I was carrying an entire rack of champagne glasses.
Oh my god!
And I kind of caught myself and fell, and one of the champagne glass had shattered, and my wrist went right over the top of the broken glass. So I had to go to the ER on New Year's. That was fun. Had to get some stitches, but again, now that's just kidding.
Sorry. Back to
yeah. Well, just
back to desserts in New York.
I want to make sure just before we completely, I want to. I'm trying to get this into where the chocolate.
This is where chocolate comes in. Okay. So now. You got such a fascinating story. I don't want to rush it. No, you're okay.
Here.
So now I'm going to school.
Okay.
So the school met every weekend. So it was Saturdays and Sundays, and we would be in this giant auditorium. We would meet at Columbus Circle. It was at whatever hall is there. Give me a minute. I'll remember New York. We met at a few places in New York. It wasn't always the same place.
So it wasn't an actual school building. It was like a collection of people who met in... Okay.
Yes. So people would fly from all over. So I had a friend that was from Portland, and she would fly to New York every weekend.
Wow.
And, yeah. But I would just hop on the train. I'd just come into New York.
Because you were living in Connecticut.
I was living in Connecticut.
That's way cheaper.
Oh, yeah. So I would sleep on my homies' couches in Brooklyn, and I met a chocolate maker. His name's Daniel Sklar, and his company's called Fine and Raw. So I'll get to that story a little bit. But,
Sure.
Sundays at the deli and the health food store that I worked at, the kitchen was shut down. Health food store was open, and they always had somebody working, so they allowed me to come into the kitchen every Sunday and make whatever I wanted, if I wasn't at school. So I would kind of, sometimes school would be every other weekend, or it would be, it'd be 2 weekends in a row, and then we'd have 2 weekends off, and then it'd be 2 weekends. So there was always time for me to squeeze in, and I would figure it out. So I just started making chocolate. Well, I started making desserts.
So when you're in the kitchen cooking, is it kind of one of those things like, let's say a musician, right? When they start playing their music, they're lost, and all of a sudden they know, whoa, I've just been playing for 3 hours. Is that kind of how it is for you in the kitchen to a degree?
Oh, yeah.
Do you look at it so much like work, or is it more just like you get
passion?
Lost?
It's just fun. At that point, it was just fun.
Sure.
I wasn't painting. That at that point, this had become my canvas, if you will.
That was your artistic outlet now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'd play in the kitchen. I'd just have fun. So I'd make cookies, I'd make pies, I'd make brownies, mostly raw or all vegan. So I was trying to perfect a gluten-free treat, or I was trying to perfect a raw pie, because it's weird. It's a weird concept.
Yeah.
To have a cheesecake that's made with cashews, or, with a pecan crust. We're just not, it's completely out of people's mindset. And my mom, still, I'm feeding my parents good food. So it's still, they're still curious about, hey, what are you doing? You're not in a cult anymore. You're going to school.
So are you shipping them stuff in the mail?
So yeah, I'd send stuff to my parents. I'd send get on Amazon. I'd send my parents superfoods and
That's so awesome.
Make them eat them. So I was playing a lot with desserts, and I realized that I wasn't using good chocolate, and I really wanted to make better chocolate. And the main reason was because my mother was always eating gross chocolate. She was.
And what do you consider to be gross chocolate?
Like Hershey's,
come on. Hershey's has
candy,
its place,
traditional milk chocolate.
But remember, at this point in my life, I'm a nerdy.
You're like, that's not chocolate. That's sugar, milk, and butter.
Yes, I'm a
it's
raw
just commercial
foodie.
chocolate.
Yeah, so just commercial. So my mom, M&Ms. There you go. She could sit and eat a whole bag of M&Ms, and I'm
who
like,
couldn't? Right?
Yeah, right. I'm like, Mom, why? Why are you doing this? I can make you better chocolate. And she's like, well, do it then. And I'm like, okay.
Challenge on.
All right. Thanks, Mom.
That is true parenting.
Yeah. So what was cool is I was like, okay, I like making chocolate. I like making bars. So I started really getting into the idea of making my own chocolate and forming them into bars. So I figured out, this kind of cheap packaging and a way to wrap the bars and make them look pretty. And I would load up a backpack with not books, with a bunch of chocolate, and I would sell it in New York.
It's just like walking around?
When I would go to school.
Okay.
So because there's 2,000 people in my school. So, and we'd have lunch break and people wanted dessert. So I would
what were you calling the chocolate? Because I'm sure you named your little business, right?
I did name it. And the Chocolate Conspiracy name happened while I was at school. So I'll tell you how the name come up. Everyone always asks me. So Andrew Weil, if a lot of people listening might know who he is. He's a health guru. I think his book is called 8 Weeks to Optimum Health. That's one of his books. He's appeared on Oprah and things like that. He's a jolly fellow, and he has a big white beard, and he's bald. So that's I'm sure you guys have seen him around.
Oh yes, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Santa.
Yeah, he looks like Santa. He does. So he came to my school and he did a lecture about health and wellness. And so the cool thing about the school is it was basically what they teach is it's a holistic approach. Everybody is different. Everybody is different. Mm-hmm. So if some people are good with vegetarianism, some people are good with veganism, some people are good with raw. So we had experts from every single field that would come and speak to us. So we had an expert who was an expert on veganism. We had experts who were experts on raw foods, herbalism, sourcing the best kind of fish, So like we had experts, and I mean, if anyone that knows anyone in the field, so we'd have people talk about Ayurvedic medicine, Indian medicine. We'd have people talk about South American herbalism. So it was super cool because we got this broad spectrum of knowledge.
Sure.
And at that point, I was experimenting away from raw foods because I was in a kitchen where I had access.
You had access to
the best foods, and plus the town I was in Connecticut was I lived in Ridgefield, so it's right on the border of New York, slightly upstate New York, not upstate New York, but I could buy local raw milk. I could buy local raw cheese. And so I started kind of pulling away from my, one of the lecturers and part of the school was, hey, try this for a week and a half. Try this for a month. See how you feel.
How did you feel incorporating dairy after being vegan?
So, the first time I had milk, and it's been, it'd been about 3 years, I drank raw milk, and it reminded me of when I was 3 or 4. Like I had memories of when I was a kid. It like made me feel like a kid, and I was like,
it brought back your childhood.
Yeah, it was insane. It was insane, and I was like, oh, all right. But didn't make me feel good. No, I realized I don't my body doesn't do very well with drinking milk. So, but I went on a rampage because I hadn't had milk for a long time. So so I drank like a half a gallon, like each week I drank like a half a gallon of milk. But then my body's like, why'd you do that, man? So I would take chocolate. So back to Andrew Weil. He taught us this meditation, and there's 2,000 of us. The word, and he said the original meaning of the word conspiracy is together with and to breathe. It's French and Latin. That's the taking the word apart. And he said, I'm going to teach you this meditation. I want you all to try it. And we're all breathing together. There's 2,000 of us breathing the exact same way. And I just had this like moment where I was like, that is the word conspiracy shifted in my own mind because of what he just told me. So it was like, okay, the word conspiracy has this connotation now where it's this secret thing or this negative thing. Yeah. And I was like, I want to transition that. I want to make the word this positive idea. And so it sounds more
like unity than anything else.
So, and I was fascinated with chocolate already, and I was like, chocolate conspiracy.
So that's where the name came from.
Boom. That's where the name came from.
I was actually always curious of that. You know what I mean?
Too.
Like okay, so that's a cool name.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's catchy. People love it. And I was like, done. So I started making cute little chocolate conspiracy labels, making these bars.
And what were people saying about them?
People loved it. At that time, though, I was selling a healthy chocolate to health nuts. Health nuts will eat anything, even if it tastes shitty. like, because they know it's good for them and it makes them feel good. I'll still eat so many things that my friends and family will not eat, but I eat it because I know it tastes good. I have this herbal blend that I've made. It has like 48 herbs in it, and it tastes horrible.
But you eat it.
But I'll drink. Yeah, I blend it in with water and I drink it because it makes
it makes you feel better.
It makes me feel amazing.
Yeah,
and I know it does. And so at that time, I wasn't making good chocolate. I was making healthy chocolate. So, and I didn't understand fine chocolate at that point. But I would slang, whatever I had in my backpack, and I'd end up with $600 to $800 cash in my pocket.
Wow.
I'm in the wrong business.
Yeah, man.
And I felt like I felt like I was in college, just I wasn't selling drugs. I was selling a different drug. I was selling chocolate.
They come up to you, hey, do you got the good stuff?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, exactly. It was weird. I was literally like, put my backpack,
stacking it in your trench coat.
Did you ever get worried that somebody was thinking you were selling drugs?
Yeah, a little bit, but a lot of times it was all it was at school, so it was like it wasn't too weird. But yeah, we'd be in class, so like lunch would end, and I'd like my bag would be in front of me, and I'd have someone like text me, and
sure.
they're like 8 aisles over, and they look and they're like, I want chocolate, and I'd hand a bar down the line, and it wouldn't get to them, and I'm like, gosh, and I'd write a note on the bar, don't eat this, I'd send the bar down the line, and so I just they were my beta testers.
Sure, man.
Yeah.
They were my beta testers, and from that point, school's now coming to an end. It was a year program.
So did it spark in your head at this point, like maybe this is what I need to make a career of, or a job of, or were you just enjoying it and you were just like having fun?
Both. Okay. So I was having fun with it. Also, so the whole idea behind the school teaches the students how to become health coaches. So I was getting training to run my own health coaching business. So I was gaining business skills. I was gaining organizational skills. I was gaining, people skills, along with all of this nutrition information. So they gave us handouts. They gave us information. They basically taught me how to run a health program.
That's an amazing, well-rounded approach.
Yes.
Like most schools do not offer that.
No. And that's what's really amazing about this program. And nowadays, the program's changed. It's not based in New York anymore. It's all online. Everything's long distance. And so they have a second year program. So I did the first year. So now the year ends and it's fall of 2009. And I'm saying, my brain is like, okay, I like to make chocolate. I want to do this for some money. And I really like coaching. And so I want to run my own program and help people get healthy. So that was kind of my approach. That was how I was making money. So at that point, my parents had put some money towards buying me cacao and buying me packaging. And I had put some money into it, and I'm like, okay, I want to start this as a business. And so I started making chocolate, stocking up, improving my packaging. There was a raw spirit fest in DC. And now school's over, and so I registered, I paid for my booth. My mother flew out to New York, and she helped me pack up my car. She visited her grandma. We all hung out. We all chatted. And before I made chocolate when I wasn't in the deli, I made chocolate in my grandma's kitchen. So
oh, wow.
She'd be hanging out watching Price is Right or whatever.
And she was cool with it. She was supportive.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you give her some, I'd be cool with it too.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Let me some of that good stuff.
Yeah, she's awesome. And so my mom helped me pack up my crap, and I could fit everything in my car. Even now, all my chocolate stuff, and we drove to DC, and I was a vendor.
And so this is your first time really vending with a legit booth.
Yep.
Do you have a banner and everything?
Well, no, not. I had one banner. I'll find an old YouTube video of this festival. It's funny because I look like a hippie, and my backdrop in the booth is like this pink and yellow tapestry that I got from one of my brothers, like a Hawaiian tapestry, and my display is ugly, and but I mean, if any of you have seen my booth now, I mean, I have grown up from that point.
It is classy.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, that was my first festival. That was my first, I'm I'm gonna slang some chocolate.
And a good response from people.
Good
right?
response. People loved it. I made good money. It was worth traveling, and so when I finished school, I met someone in San Francisco that had a kitchen and an apartment, and they wanted me to move to San Francisco, and they were going to help me get my business going. And I loved Santa Rosa. I loved Sebastopol. I loved that kind of northern Cali
beautiful
area
there,
because I'd been there, and I was like, yeah, let's go back to San Fran. That'd be awesome. So my plan was to do these festivals. So there was a Raw Spirit Fest in D.C. and then a Raw Spirit Fest in Sedona. Well, in Prescott, it was outside of Sedona. So my mom's helped me with both those. So
wow, she traveled with you?
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah. So we bounced to DC. We did the festival, and then we drove. I think we went to Utah. So we went to Roosevelt. We went home, chilled with my dad. We unloaded my crap. We kind of revamped the car, repacked everything, and then we drove down to Prescott and did the other festival and did the second fest. It was amazing. It was such a fun kind of wild experience. And then at that point, then we went back up to Roosevelt, back to Salt Lake. So I stayed in Salt Lake with my other brother, my middle brother, Patrick. A lot of people in Salt Lake know who he is. He owns a salon here in Salt Lake. He's a hairstylist.
You know what? I actually might know him.
Yeah, you might. His salon's called George Elliott Salon. It's in the library.
Okay. Oh, yes.
You know my brother.
I've met him.
Yep.
Did I meet him through you?
You probably did, or at Craft Sabbath at some point.
Is he still down there?
Yep.
Awesome.
Still down there.
I go get my hair did.
Yeah. So I was chilling with Patrick.
Does he do your hair?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
That's awesome.
That's why I always have wild hair, because I let him do whatever the hell he wants.
Okay.
I don't care. And so he
must love that.
He does love it, because there's so many picky people.
I got to get him on this podcast
yeah.
then. Anyway, sorry.
Okay, so I came home, I'm chilling, and it was mostly Patrick. We went out to Roosevelt together, and we chilled with my parents, and he and I never really were friends growing up.
Sure.
I mean, we were, but we were always at each other's throats. Me and my older brother, Chris, we were homies. We were friends. Chris kind of raised me, as he was the brother that was always there. Pat and I just were never close until about this time. We're kind of older. We've kind of gone through, I
think that happens a lot with siblings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We hate each other when we're younger.
Yep.
But as we grow up,
yeah, kind of evolve and learn from there.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I, he and I kind of connected on a different level as adults. And he's like, "Why the hell are you going to San Fran? Why?" And I was like, "Well, I have this kitchen lined up, I have this apartment lined up, and I like the West Coast. That's my vibe, And he's like, "Why don't you stay here?" So he and I moved in together, and I had a walk-in closet, and that became my chocolate closet, and all my gear went in there.
Chocolate closet.
Yeah.
Can I have one of those?
I need to find an old photo of that.
You have a chocolate closet. What you put
chocolate cupboard
in the shoebox.
Oh yeah,
in that little
you weren't supposed to know about that.
You hide under the bed with Twinkies and.
Anyway. So that's he owns a nice little condo in the Marmalade area. Okay. So it's what is that apartment complex? Marmalade Square? Nope. What is that place called? Anyways, so we lived together for about 3 years. And at that point, then I was renting kitchens here in Salt Lake and manufacturing the product, and started to do distribution.
Is this when you started? Because we met at Craft Sabbath. We chatted about that before we hit record.
Yep.
So is Craft Sabbath kind of one of the first things that you started selling at here in Salt Lake?
Yep. So,
and I'm assuming a good response.
It was
exciting.
This
is new for
great.
Salt Lake. I don't think really Salt Lake had a chocolate slinger.
No. So Amano I'm one of the oldest chocolate companies in Utah as far as bean to bar manufacturers.
That could be something to be proud of.
Yeah, it feels good. So at that time, now it's my second year of school. So the school has a 1-year program. You don't have to do the second year, but they offer the second year for free.
Oh, wow.
I was like, well, I don't have to pay for school, so I'm going to do another year. So when you go through the second program, you act as a counselor for new students. So I I did the second year program, and what's cool about the second year program is we have conferences. So we had a conference in Venice, and then we had a conference in Miami, and we had a conference in New York. So instead of every weekend me flying, I would fly every 2 months. So like I'm making chocolate now, I'm health coaching, so I'm trying to develop my health coaching business. And chocolate was still kind of on the part-time. I didn't really know how I wanted to make it grow because I was making decent money doing health coaching. And so I finished my first year, and now this time I've met my current partner. Lots of you know her, Erica Olson. She and I have been together for the breadth of the time I've been in Salt Lake. So I met her right after I moved back to Salt Lake through my brother. They're really good friends. Erica has supported me this entire journey through chocolate.
Does she help you at all with chocolate?
She used to. She used to work for me when I could kind of pay her. And she worked for free for a long time, and I've had a lot of people work for me for free, and that's been amazing for those people. And I feel bad at certain times where they put in their heart and soul to help the business grow. I have had a couple of my friends help me grow the business, and it was always hard to... Because again, I wasn't an entrepreneur. I didn't.
Sure.
At that point, I didn't know if I wanted to run a chocolate business. I didn't really know what was evolving from it. I wanted to be a health coach, but
and it really felt. I mean, to me, when I met you, it felt like your friends just wanted to be there with you.
And that's when I met you.
Yeah, that's when I met you. And like they weren't in it for the money.
No.
They weren't in it for a business. They were in it for you.
Yes, they wanted to see me succeed.
Yeah.
So just for the sake of time here,
Yeah,
just to kind of fast forward a little bit, just because I want to really, even highlight, I want people to know about you with the chocolate conspiracy. So you're selling them locally at craft Sabbaths, in different street fairs, vendors, and were you getting them into the local businesses?
I was. So that's okay. So now the business is kind of going. The chocolate business is going. Health coaching business is going. So now I'm like, okay, this is evolving to a career. I found a better kitchen that I could manufacture out of. I changed my packaging. I grew up a little bit. I evolved the business. When I had first taken chocolate to Caputo's, I gave chocolate to Matt, and he was like, "It's gross. This is not good chocolate." And it was the greatest feedback in the world.
But who was he to really judge, though?
He was the buyer of the Caputo's. He was the chocolate buyer for Caputo's.
Okay, so he was familiar with chocolate.
Oh yeah,
okay.
And
that's what I mean, because everything was his taste. I mean, just like if I was to drink that beer, maybe I wouldn't like it, but you did. So who's to say you're chocolate?
Right.
But since he was the chocolate buyer,
he was the chocolate man in Salt Lake, and he still he knows a lot. And so at the time, I really wanted to get into. I wanted to make my product better. So there's a group called the Utah Chocolate Society. And so I got involved in the Utah Chocolate Society. I started tasting chocolate. And so now at this point I'm not super raw, I'm not super vegan. I'm still kind of both. I found a diet that worked for me. I was living my life the way I felt good, in what I was eating. I wasn't strict raw, I wasn't strict vegan, I wasn't strict gluten-free. I wasn't, I wasn't strict in anything. I was just focused on
you had a good balance.
High quality food. I found a good balance after school. School created this nice balance for me. And so, I just at that point, I was tasting all sorts of chocolates. French chocolate, Italian chocolate.
And where were you finding them? Ordering them?
And at Caputo's. So we would get together with the Chocolate Society, and the whole idea behind the Chocolate Society is we just taste and analyze chocolate. So it's a group of 15 to 30 of us.
Is it free to join?
It's free to join. Yeah.
Sounds like we need to join.
You guys should come check it out. I'll give you the info.
Please do.
And it's growing. So now it's been around for almost 7 years, 8 years.
Wow.
It's been around for maybe not that long, maybe 6 years. But it's probably been around 6 years. So I got involved from the very beginning. Brian Ruggles is the organizer. He's a chocolate nerd. But I tasted all of these really amazing chocolates. And then I would taste mine and be like, I am not a good chocolate maker yet. And so that's where it
But you didn't give up.
No, hell no.
Yeah,
no,
well,
I love it.
people
I'm passionate
would.
about it.
Yeah,
And that's, that's kind of what I even wanted to profile a little bit. Like, hey, here's somebody who kept going, kept pursuing their dream, They didn't give up just because one person said it tasted like garbage.
You just kept learning.
The fact that he told me that, he didn't tell me that in jest. He told me that to get better.
Sure.
And so same with, so if anyone knows now, so Steve Olson, he's the manager of the Chocolate Conspiracy. He is part owner now. He used to run the store Earth Goods General Store. So Tom Benedict is the owner of Earth Goods General Store, and it used to be on 13th South and 9th East. And it's this cool little eco-friendly store, and they were the same. I brought them chocolate, and they're like, "Yeah, it's okay. We're not going to carry it yet." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, it's cool. No worries." Few months back, I brought them better product. I brought them better packaging. I brought them, the bars were improved. Everything about my production had gotten better, and they picked it up. They were one of my first retailers in Salt Lake City to pick up my product, and Steve and I just became friends. Every time I'd come deliver chocolate, we'd sit and chat. Every time I'd see him on the street, we'd chat. He'd come to the farmer's market, we'd sit and chat. So Steve and I developed a friendship because of that relationship. And, as the business grew, I kind of evolved. I opened my first retail store with my little factory. It was on 9th South.
I remember that location. I never visited.
Me too. I came in and ate stuff.
See, you went in there, Chrissy. I never.
Phil came.
Yeah, I came with Phil.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
It was
across from Chan and
delicious.
Tai. The building was just hard to work in. I didn't have good AC. It wasn't the best. It was tiny. It was 400 square feet. So it wasn't,
wow.
I couldn't grow into it. There was nothing. I hit my max. There was nothing else I could grow. But by that time, I wasn't really doing health coaching as much. I'd cut that back. So
and were you okay with cutting that back?
I was.
Mentally as a person?
I was. So that somewhere around there, it would have been my third year of school. The school hired me as a coach. So I was employed by IIN, and I was basically a mentor to new students.
So are you still flying out to New York every weekend?
No.
Oh,
So
okay.
now
He's doing it online.
I'm
now.
doing it all
Yeah.
online and over the phone.
Okay.
So that was my job. That's what paid my bills. So chocolate still wasn't, anywhere.
Chocolate wasn't paying the bills.
No, not at all. So I actually worked, I was in my own health coaching business, hadn't grown enough to pay my bills. So this was before I opened the retail store.
Was that discouraging though, as a person, that it wasn't paying the bills? Were you wondering, is this something I should keep doing?
It was, but my parents and people involved. So the business grew on my investment and my parents' investment. So they're part owners. My mom and dad each own 10%, and then I had the rest of the ownership.
Nice.
And so they would put money into the business to help support me, and the business would grow. And my mom said, "Give it 5 years." She was the one that was always like, if you hit, because my mom knows me all too well, as all mothers do. I don't start projects and, I just gave you my history. I bounced around. I lived in 8 different, I moved 12 times in 3 years.
Yeah.
That's just,
Well, you were living a hell of a life, man.
Yeah.
You were on the road.
I moved everywhere.
You were,
so my people who know me know I don't stick with projects.
Sure.
I could, when I was a kid, I built a kayak. I didn't build it. I didn't finish it. I halfway built a kayak. Those are things that I kind of did.
You have great ideas, and it's exciting to start.
But I'm a space case sometimes, and I'm like, yeah, that was fun, but I don't want to do it anymore. So this was one of those things that my mom's like, give it 5 years. Give it 5 years. She was like, I don't care if you quit after 5 years. If you quit before years, you're a quitter. That was kind of my that was my mom's way of really pushing me to make it to 5 years.
And are you glad she did?
Oh yeah, for sure. And my 5th year was my hardest. So my 3rd year was when I opened the retail store on 9th, and I wasn't working for IIN anymore. So now I had a couple employees, and the business was running. I was making money, enough to pay my bills. I wasn't doing health coaching. I had a few clients on the side, but it was just one of those easy. It was cool. Chocolate's working. It's working right now. The 4th year, I got in a horrible accident and slammed my head pretty hard on the pavement, and that really slowed a lot of things down. And so I kind of had to readdress how I wanted to grow my business. And then the 5th year was okay, we've outgrown the space. the landlord's hard to work with. We don't know what we need to do. We got to figure out what we need to do, how we want to move, what the hell's going on. So this family that has supported me from the very beginning, from day one, their last name is Doss. So Michelle and Sunit Doss, they invested in my business, and that their investment bought them 10%. That moved me to the new location I'm at now.
Which is what?
774 South, 300 West.
I drive by it every day on my way to work.
So it's right next door to Ruby Snap.
Yeah.
And it's right by Chic and Unique. So we're right in between. We're set off the street a little bit. So their investment. And then, so now Steve, so Earth Goods General Store moved from their location and they moved downtown. And it tanked. It didn't do well at all. They didn't. Their customer base didn't follow them. But the industry's changed a little too. You can find all that shit on Amazon. You know, so it's just kind of their customers didn't need to follow them because they could buy it easier in better ways. And so Steve. I went in there one day and I was, we were swapping chocolate and getting their shelf full. And I didn't really know the outcome of what was going to happen with Earth Goods. And Steve told me, he's like, I just found out I'm going to get laid off. And I was like, shit, man. I said, well, what are you going to do? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, you want to come sling chocolate? And he was just like, yes, done. Boom. So, and I was like, I can't pay you. I was like, you're going to have to work on commission, and I need somebody to help me sell. I need you to manage my wholesale accounts. And Steve's like, done. I can handle that. So Steve worked part-time on commission only. And then Steve got other jobs with some cool local companies. So he worked for Laziz, and he worked for Chapool. So he was doing sales for those three companies. So he was doing demos, and he was hoofing it, man. He was doing what he had to do to make money and survive. Yeah. And I said, as this business grows, I want you to, this is what you're passionate about, and this is what I'm passionate about. I want you to be more involved in the business. And so this, we're still at our space on 9th, and we kind of evolved some things. We remodeled the whole space. We moved our production to a different kitchen. So now we're sharing production with another chocolate company called Mezzo. And so me and Mezzo are sharing kitchen, and we turned the retail store just into a retail store. Sure. But it didn't take. People didn't really get it. And the remodel wasn't very nice. We didn't pull it off how I needed to. The branding wasn't there. The business hadn't grown enough. And so it just kind of, we all were like, okay, having the three locations, meaning, production in one space, retail in another space, and an office at my house was so difficult for the business to grow. And now this is like my 5th year, right? And we're broke, we're in debt, the business can't grow anymore, didn't know what the hell I was going to do. Literally like one of those moments like, oh shit, I might have to close my business, And so the Dosses invested, and Steve put money into the business, and I sold him a percentage. So their investments essentially saved us, and we moved to the new location, built out a new kitchen, and then we applied for a loan through the city, and we got a really nice loan from the Economic Loan Development Fund. Nice. And that money bought us new equipment, new infrastructure, new packaging, new marketing, and so now the past 2 years we have grown bigger than I have in the whole time I've done my business. Wow. And that's thanks to Steve and the people who have been around in the past couple of years. And so I hit that 4 or 5 year mark, and that's like Erica was like, I can't work for you for free anymore. And I was like, hell no. I was like, you got to work for both of us because I can't pay a dime for anything. So Erica became my sugar mama, and and Steve, his partner Eli, was she's his sugar mama, and she supported him, and now we're both we've actually made money in the past couple of years, and how
great is that you guys both had such supportive partners?
Oh, it was awesome. It's awesome.
That makes such a difference.
They are amazing people.
It's important to have a supportive partner.
It is. And so now for the past 2 years, we have been strictly doing chocolate. I haven't done health coaching. I haven't done anything else for money, except maybe sold some art or whatever. And so that's kind of where we're at now, is the business is finally a business that's,
well, your story is very inspiring,
man. It
and
really
I know
is.
we went a little long.
Sorry, we went a long time.
No. Don't feel bad because I think it was important to know all of that.
Well,
to know your journey, to know how you got here, to know that this wasn't like you're not just some, guy that was just like, oh, well, I'm going to start making chocolate. Like, this is a story that I think a lot of us can learn from, to not give up on our dreams, to not give up on our passions. Because I know a lot of times, even with things I'm doing, I'm just like, should I keep doing it?
Is this worth it? Is this
really worth what I need to be doing?
And I never imagined myself being an entrepreneur. And even now, it's weird to call myself that. But that's what you are, That's what I am. And I love it. Because I'm kind of one of those people that I'd be a shitty employee. Like, I'm not a great boss either, but if I worked for someone else, I wouldn't want to be...
You'd want to be doing your own thing.
Yeah, I always have wanted to do my own thing. And that's kind of why I think Liz, when I was working for her in Connecticut, she knew that. And same with my bosses at Cedar Springs. They kind of knew my style. They knew that I wasn't going to stick around, because that wasn't where, what I don't like working for people.
Sure.
And so now me and Steve runs the business. He handles all the bullshit, and I make the chocolate. And that's what I want to do. That's
so
what
amazing.
I love to do. And I still love, I'm still the face. I still help with social media. We do festivals. We travel. So now we work with a distributor based in Salt Lake City called A Priori Specialty Foods. And we distribute to Caputo's, Liberty Heights, Real Foods, Natural Grocers. We are working on more natural grocers. We're expanding into the Colorado market.
So Utah listeners, people listening, they can go to those places
and they carry my bars.
And this is obviously going to be up before Christmas. Great stocking stuffers. Oh my
I actually
gosh.
bought some of your bars in a tiny little bookshop in Park City once too.
Yeah. Atticus Books.
Like,
Atticus
that's
Books.
it.
So Park City
stores in Park City. And outside of Utah, there's stores in New York. There's stores in Connecticut. There's stores in North Carolina. There's stores in Kansas.
Wow.
There's on the West Coast. There's stores in San Diego, L.A., San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, stores in Montreal in Canada, in Victoria. So we are growing, and we're finally to that point where we are consistently putting out this amazing product. And, so we have our bars. We have 5 chocolate bars, and that's what we distribute. And, to back up everything about my chocolate, it's a raw chocolate. So this whole background, we do not roast our cocoa beans, which is so different. We're the only company in Utah that does raw chocolate. There's not very many chocolate companies at all that do raw chocolate. Yeah. So out of 4,000 companies, there's maybe 13 to 20 that do raw chocolate. Because it's not traditional. Roasting is what develops flavor. But I came from that health background. I came from the idea of, let's preserve the nutritional value in chocolate. Yeah. Cacao is the most chemically complex food substance on the planet. So when you look at the chemical constituents in chocolate, it's pages. It's 4 or 5 pages, lists of what's actually in chocolate. And so I don't want to destroy that. I don't want to mitigate it, And so from there, we don't use any refined sugars either. And that's the other main, what really sets us apart. Again, from all the chocolate makers in the world, I use raw honey, a local honey here from Utah that we sweeten the chocolate with. And no one does that. No one knows how. And that's one of the real issues that I've had with my business. All of this, we were talking about growing and evolving. We don't do a large amount of sales in a year. We're a really, really small company sales-wise because it's taken me this long to dial in the right type of equipment, how to figure out how to process. There's no equipment made for companies like mine. Yeah. There's really, really large equipment. There's really small equipment. So as a company, I bought a $14,000 machine and I used it maybe 30 to 40 times, and now I'm just sitting on it because we don't use it because I can't. It doesn't work.
Is this something you could sell on KSL?
Oh, yeah. So we've been trying to we've been trying to sell it. We've been trying to get rid of it. So, but yeah, so that's what really sets us apart is we are a raw honey sweetened chocolate company. So we have our 5 bars. That's what we distribute.
And I love that you refuse to cut corners to grow.
Yes.
Like you maintain the quality of your product.
Yep. We will never not use organic, and we will never not use honey.
So what are your hours of your storefront?
New location. So the storefront, that is our factory storefront. That's kind of what we like to call it. We're only open 3 days a week. We're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 11 to 7.
Okay, so people can stop by.
Come in.
What can they buy?
They can. So the 5 bars that we have. And then we also have a selection of hand-rolled truffles. We have a chocolate sauce. We have peanut butter cups. We've got just unveiled it for the holidays. We have our dark chocolate baby Jesus. We have a
little dark chocolate baby Jesus.
We have a new pecan chocolate butter. That's going to be for the holidays. We'll only sell it for November and December. We'll probably keep it around in January because it's really, really good. And then we have some barks, and barks are just a slab of dark chocolate with fruits and nuts on top. And so we have some new flavors coming out next week. So we have orange cranberry with pecan. We're also going to have a peppermint bark coming out. Like a candy cane.
So those will be out by the time this gets up. Those will be out.
Yes, those will be ready for the holidays.
So, and that's what I even want to push with this podcast is support local.
Awesome.
Support Utah, support Salt Lake City. You know, a huge percentage of obviously this podcast listeners are Salt Lake City.
Yep.
So they have no reason to not support local. And why not get somebody some chocolate if you don't know?
For real.
You're doing the winter market at the Rio Grande?
We do the winter market. Yep. Okay. So we're there. It goes 10 to 2.
Yeah.
Love it. Steve's always there.
Okay.
So the other product we have is hot chocolate. Summer long, we do a cold chocolate smoothie at the market, and now all winter long, we'll do the hot chocolate. And again, all my products, there's no dairy either. So again, coming from my health background, so we'll use coconut oil, no dairy, no refined sugars, no soy, no fillers, no additives, nothing artificial, everything.
Which is incredible because
it's organic.
It's actually so delicious for someone like me who still eats McDonald's. It's still really delicious.
Yeah. Well, and coming from the health background, when anyone thinks of healthy chocolate, it tastes like a Flintstone vitamin dipped in chocolate.
Yeah.
It tastes horrible. So, and that's what my chocolate kind of tasted like when I first started. You know, giving it to Matt Caputo, he's like, "Oh, this is a health chocolate. Gross." You know, it wasn't good. So now, as I've evolved and I've grown my business, I've made a fine chocolate that is a health-centric chocolate bar.
And it's delicious.
And it's great. Thank you.
No. I mean, you're not paying me to say that. I really urge you to, whoever's listening, go track down one of these bars. They are amazing.
Thank you.
I know. I mean,
and the hot chocolate.
You're welcome. I mean,
hot chocolate's awesome.
I mean, that's why I wanted to bring you on this podcast. I love your stuff.
Yeah, you've been eating my chocolate for years.
And it's like I'm finally getting you on the podcast again. I mean, we chatted.
This is a perfect time.
I've known you for years.
Yep.
And the fact that it's taken 250 plus episodes of the podcast.
We're here.
On the
it's
show.
Good timing because it's such a better story now.
Well,
now
not only is it a great story, but it's
exactly.
for the holidays.
Yes,
it
is. I appreciate that.
And I mean, obviously, people after the holidays are going to be listening to this.
Yep.
Maybe next holiday they're going to be
Valentine's Day is coming
Valentine's Day. I mean, I'm sure you're going to be
We do an herbal aphrodisiac chocolate bar for Valentine's Day.
Oh, my gosh. Let's talk later.
Yep, that'll come back. It'll be around. So,
well, let's run down. I mean, you're on Facebook,
Instagram, Twitter. Those are our 3 kind of main
to follow you, to connect with you,
to find us. Yeah,
and your website. What's your website?
It's eatchocolateconspiracy.com.
Okay.
So, and you can buy any of the products I just mentioned online. We also have some cool gear. We've got sweet hoodies. We've got sweet hats.
You're wearing one right now.
I live in this thing.
I need to get one of those.
Yeah. We got some sweet hats this year. We got some sweet pint glasses. We're going to get some cool mugs for the hot chocolate, hopefully coming soon. But it's been really nice to evolve the business and really, where we're at now. And now we're kind of looking at how to grow more, So now we're like, okay, how much can we produce in a week? And now can we double that? And can we get more distribution? So we're going to be at the Fancy Food Show in January.
What's that?
It's a big trade show for food companies. They have a summer show in New York.
Where's it?
It's in San Fran in the winter.
Oh, wow.
And so it's not open to the public. It's just for business partners. So it's
industry insiders.
Industry insiders. So it's buyers from stores, it's distributors, it's retailers, owners of stores. So we're going to be sampling our product to thousands of people that are buyers. Nice. And so we're going to meet with a new distribution company, and so we're looking at a lot of people really want Harmon's. Forgot all about that.
I was actually just thinking that. I'm like, I wonder if he's in Harmon's.
Just picked us up right before the holidays.
But I'm sure they're not up near I'm sure they're in their own section. They're not up with the other candy bars.
No. It's not in the candy. Yeah. So in all the Harmon's, it's really cool. Harmon's is so chocolate centric now. So they have it's a little cool end cap round display. It's always by the cheese. So the cheesemongers sell the chocolate, and you can find fine chocolate in any Harmon's now, and we'll be in those sections. Nice. So
you can pick up some awesome cheese and fine chocolate.
Yes.
At the same time.
Yep. And so I'll plug this now too. Hopefully it comes out before. We're going to do a holiday open house at our chocolate shop. It's going to be December 17th.
Oh, yeah. This will be up before that.
Yeah, it'll be that evening. So it's open. It's free. You can come and eat to your heart's
December
content.
17th?
December 17th.
At what time?
It'll be in the evening, so 7 to 10.
What day of the week is that?
That's a Saturday night.
Okay, I'd like to try to
double check my calendar.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I know that gets kind of tough around the holidays.
It does, and so we're gonna have invitations at the market tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow. This Saturday,
and I'm sure you'll give all the information, Facebook and whatnot.
Yeah,
the
17th, December 17th. It'll be that evening. So, what we've done in the past, we always have drinks. We always have drinks. It's just a fun holiday party, and then we have local food. So this year we're going to have like 3 or 4 different soups provided by Cantu's Catering, Daniel Cantu, and then we're going to have some meat and cheese provided by Caputo's with some olives. We're going to have some stuff from Laziz. We're going to have hummus and snacks. Nice. And you can come and hang out. We'll probably have a local musician play.
That sounds so fun.
It's just a time for people to get together and chill out and sample all of our chocolates. We sample everything that evening, so there'll be chocolates all over the place. So as you walk around the building and check out our chocolate shop, there's will be a bowl of goodies on plates and platters around the space. So
cool.
Yep,
that sounds like a party.
Before we wrap this up,
yep,
is there a motto or a piece of advice you want to leave with the listeners?
Eat more chocolate.
No, I like it.
Especially this brand.
No, that seems like a great place to end it.
Yeah, I like it. Go chocolate, just like any food, wine, beer, meat, cheese, bread. There's an art to chocolate, and when you get into it, we didn't even get this. No, we scratched, we scratched the surface, but it's just like wine. There's terroir, there's regions, so what's really cool is it's a rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. And so go jump in, go to Caputo's, go to Liberty Heights, go to Harmon's and buy 10 chocolate bars that you've never tried, and try to appreciate dark chocolate, because cacao made into a bar that's not laden with milk and sugar, it'll change your perception about chocolate. So try a bar that's from Venezuela that was manufactured by a company in San Francisco, and then try a bar that's from Venezuela manufactured by a company in Brooklyn, and then buy a bar that's from Peru manufactured by a company in Italy. So there's really kind of start to dabble and find the bars you like, and just be open and open your mind to the idea of, it's like when you first try something that you don't like, it's like your first sip of a beer and you're like, ew, like what was that? Yeah.
But and then over time,
why did I do that?
Developed taste. Eat
more chocolate. Get your head in, put your toes in, jump down the rabbit hole, because it's an emerging industry, and the fine chocolate industry is taking off, and just like spirits, just like wine, just like good beer, Just like good coffee. Coffee is the
Sure.
same way. If you dabble in
Yeah.
coffee and you want to try a Costa Rican bean compared to a Nicaraguan bean or a light roast compared to a dark roast, do the same with chocolate, because it's the $8 price point is worth it, and it's a food that will slowly and subtly change the way you perceive your life. So
I love it. Well, I mean, I know, again, we just scratched the surface. I'd love to bring you back on.
Let's do it.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
Chat more chocolate.
I would love to.
Because I know we scratched the surface.
I feel like getting all healthy now.
Yeah.
I'm all inspired.
Yeah.
But we'll end it there. I'll put all the links to get in touch with you, AJ,
Perfect.
on iamsaltlake.com with this show notes.
Love it.
Go check you out. I mean, you're a farmer's market during the summer. If for some reason people are listening to this during the summertime.
And we're at the farmer's market. We're at stores.
Yeah.
Come by our facility. If I'm there in the shop, just hassle me and show me what's cooking. I'll bring you back in the kitchen. I'll show you the grinders. I'll show you our equipment. So
Awesome.
people are welcome to come in and have a little quick tour of the shop.
Let's
So-
go do that sometime,
Yeah.
Chrissy, and we'll put pictures at iamsaltlake.com.
Absolutely.
Probably maybe
That would
not
be a
before this
blast.
goes up, but sometime in the future.
a little
you know?
afterward. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Awesome. Thank you both.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
AJ.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right. Many thanks to AJ Wentworth for coming on this episode. Great conversation, Chrissy. I know
Oh,
we
yeah.
talked about it at the beginning. I learned so much from him.
Me too.
I was inspired.
I wanted to eat healthy by the end for like an hour.
For like an hour, I was going to say. I mean, we chatted with him a while ago, and didn't really stick with you too long. The whole eating healthy thing.
Pretty hard to stay motivated. I'm super impressed with what he's been able to do in his
Absolutely, a
life.
heck of a story.
Yeah.
Connect with him on Facebook and go check out his website. Catch up with him at one of the local markets. Let him know you heard him on I Am Salt Lake. I know the people that come on the show, they love to hear from the listeners.
Oh, yeah.
That they listen to the podcast.
It's fun for them to know that's they're reaching out to new people in new ways.
Absolutely. But we got mail, Chrissy.
We did.
I was so excited when you brought these into our office here, our I Am Salt Lake office. You're like, Chris,
I was like,
we got mail. Our first mail for the podcast. We got it from
Super fun.
Listener Michelle.
Yes.
She sent me a birthday card, so many thanks to her. I just kind of want to read it here real quick.
Go
Chrissy.
for it.
It just says, I hope you have a fantastic birthday. Your enjoyable listener, Michelle.
Aw.
And, honestly,
she's just
she
so
is
sweet.
she is. I mean, is that weird for me to say she's a sweetheart?
No, she is a sweetheart.
I mean, she is constantly reaching out.
Yeah, and she came to our last live show. I got to give her a hug.
Live show.
She's
I've
just-
met her a few times before that. She's given us VHS tapes.
Yeah.
and
And
all
she
that.
sent me an unbirthday card because that's not my birthday.
What does it say in there?
It says, Happy unbirthday. I hope your day was great. We weren't Facebook friends when you had your birthday. Your enjoyable IRS listener, Michelle.
She
She
really
works
is.
for the
I mean,
IRS.
it's honestly, that's what this podcast is all about to me, Chrissy.
Yeah.
Is it's the community, it's the connection, and that's why we really urge for listeners to reach out to us.
It's so much fun.
It really is. I mean, an email, a tweet, a Facebook message, it doesn't matter. But if you're just out there listening, we don't know it.
Yeah.
We don't know about you.
We want to hear back from you. We want to be friends.
We want to be part of your lives. I mean, otherwise this is all for nothing. But we're slowly connecting with all of the listeners of the podcast. And
It's so much more fun.
it really is. But that's going to do it for this episode. I do want to mention our sponsor for this episode, Jed's Barbershop. They got 2 locations right now. Go check them out if you need a haircut, a beard trim, a straight razor shave. They're located right downtown at 212 South, 700 East, right next to, really close to Sprouts, right downtown there. And they're also in Sugar House at 2153 East, 2100 South. They're open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Saturday 9 to 7, and Sunday 12 to 5. And like you mentioned in the beginning, Chrissy, I mean, you don't need to make an appointment.
Which is really handy if you're a busy person.
But let me give a little bit of a pro tip here. Call up in advance. They'll take like a 15, 20-minute call. So like you can say, hey, put me on the list. Give them your name, and then that's enough time to drive there. And
then you don't have to
can-
wait too long.
And also another little tip is if you go on Sundays, Sundays, especially right at the beginning of the day, if you show up right before they open, about 11:45 or so, get your name on that list, and
Just
then
sneak in there.
when they start cutting hair at noon, you can get a haircut. They also give they got little Huckleberry soda or root beer or some
they have
stuff in the fridge there. And
and
anyway,
a pool table. You can play pool.
The one in Sugar
House. Yeah. Arcade games.
JedsBarbershop.com. You can also like their Facebook page and give them some love. Let them know. Say, hey, I heard you guys being talked about on I Am Salt Lake.
Yeah, tell them we sent you.
Tell them we sent you. You can connect with I Am Salt Lake Podcast, though. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat.
And at IamSaltLake.com.
IamSaltLake.com is the entire back catalog.
Yep.
We got a voicemail text line. Feel free to reach out that way, 385-202-5926. You can send a text, a voicemail. Nobody will ever pick up that number. But it's a great way to get in touch with us.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about on this episode, Chrissy? I know it's been a heck of an episode. Real long.
Been.
If anybody's made it this long, thank you so much for listening.
Just thank you guys for listening.
You guys have a great week and get out and support local.
Good night, Grammy.